Welcome into our Tuesday, September 20th edition of the Sports Flash Media Network. Tonight's show will be discussing the Week 3 NFL games that concluded last night. Had a lot of good games this weekend. I'm joined by my co-hosts Tyler Shibish and Josh Clackler.
Hello. Joe, I thought it would be interesting, and you should know that Joe Will is trending on Facebook right now with about 300,000 comments.
Wait, Clack, why'd you mute my mic?
I didn't mute anybody. I'm sitting here.
It said the host has unmuted your mic. Why was I muted?
I'm not the host.
No, that's what happens when the intro video ends. Anyway.
You're the host.
Wait, did you hear me do the intro?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, God. All right, that's the only important part. All right, continue, Tyler.
No, I was just saying Joe Will is trending on Twitter or Facebook right now. So,
Why?
Good for you. I don't know. Something with Joe Biden. Anyway.
God, How are you doing, Tyler?
Good. I'm doing great. I mean, I was sad yesterday, but it's a new day. 24-hour rule, right? Pick yourself back up by the bootstraps. I mean, I guess it hasn't quite been 24 hours because for whatever reason, the game was at like 7:15 or no, it was 7:30, and there was 2 games yesterday. Beef, real quick before we continue. Why did the NFL schedule 2 Monday night games? Right, I'm cool with that, but why did they schedule them so that they overlapped? That's just so dumb.
I also didn't understand why, this week of all weeks, they decided to do that.
Right. Well, they normally do it week 1.
Yeah, I know, but I was so caught off guard when I found out they were doing it this week. It's not like there's anything special going on this week. I mean, it gives us, some extra stuff to talk about.
There's something very.
I mean, they always have 2 games.
Minnesota Vikings played.
They always have 2 games, but usually it's week 1 and it's like 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah, they've never done it 2 weeks in a row though. Anyways, Clack, how you doing?
I'm great. It was a great weekend of football. A lot of good games. I was kind of busy Sunday after being up literally all night Saturday, so I really didn't get to watch a lot.
What were you doing? We couldn't have a show because you got 1 hour of sleep. You want to explain what you were up to?
We'll get into that later. The Dolphins and Ravens game was a heck of a game.
That was great.
21-point comeback by the Dolphins after a certain somebody,
Voldemort.
We won't go into who that was. Well, it was actually 2 somebodies. One famous somebody, one not so famous somebody. Throwing shade at Tua, then proceeds to come back. We're down 21, but anyway.
We'll start off with some NFL news. 49ers quarterback Trey Lance broke a bone in his ankle, and he's out for the year, which I don't think the quarterback situation in San Francisco can be any more dysfunctional than it is. They drafted Lance so that he could sit behind Garoppolo and eventually they could get Garoppolo out. And then Lance struggled last year, so Garoppolo ended up playing a lot of the year. They bring Lance on the field. And then this year, they basically gave Jimmy G the finger and said, hey, Lance is our guy, he's starting. And everybody basically crapped on them, said, hey, why aren't you going to trade him? Nobody really wanted to trade him. And then kind of right before the season started, they made him the richest backup quarterback, I'm pretty sure. And he just quietly did his thing, quietly worked, and came in after Lance broke that bone in his ankle and had a touchdown pass, 0 turnovers, and a rushing touchdown. So, I mean, great for Jimmy G. Obviously, this sucks for Lance because they still don't really know what he is as a quarterback. The first game they played this year was a weird rainy game against the Bears, so it's not like he really got a chance to showcase his talent. This game, he was off to a great start. I mean, he drove the Niners down the field before, unfortunately, he suffered that injury. But I guess what do we think about Trey Lance? It was such a small sample size for a guy that
nothing. Nobody knows. I mean, he's played less than 10, 20 snaps. I mean, what is there to know? I mean.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's tough because we know. I was personally wanted Washington to draft him when he was draft eligible, but they didn't do it. And so I was excited when I saw the Niners drafted him, along with a lot of people. Were excited, Kyle Shanahan, that offense. They like to keep things explosive, and Lance is an explosive player. But I mean, next year you would hope he'd come back, but the small window between when you pick up the 5th year on his contract and I mean, I just don't know what they're gonna do.
I'm worried for like his development as well as a quarterback because you think about it, the last 3 years, right? He was extremely raw. He was touted as this extremely raw prospect who has all the tools to develop, which is great. So then 3 years ago, he played one game. It was like an exhibition showcase game against I forgot who it was, some FBS or FCS school, and he didn't even look that great. And then last year he played 20, 30 snaps, like occasionally coming in to spell Jimmy Garoppolo. And then this year he played like 1 or 2 drives. And to say, I do want to say too, saying he broke a bone in his ankle is kind of underselling a little bit. Like if this is like a normal leg, like foot, his ankle was like 90 degrees that way. It wasn't just broke, it was like bordering on backward. So the fact that he actually like reportedly didn't have as bad of an injury as Dak Prescott had last year is still pretty impressive. But I think that I'm just worried that this is going to be his 3rd year in the NFL and he's played like 30 snaps or something. Like Jordan Love for the Packers, I think, has probably played more than him at this point. He sat Aaron Rodgers for 4 years.
You bring up a good point with the fact that he took like that COVID year, decided not to play. So he's still this unknown commodity. Luckily for him, it worked out really well because the 49ers took a chance on him and drafted him. But, yeah, I don't know. I love Lance as a player. He's very fun to watch, like I keep saying. But you have to think that, you know, they're going to have to do some internal talks and figure out what they're going to do with this whole situation.
I mean, Jimmy G's led him to the NFC Championship and to the twice. I mean, to the Super Bowl. I don't think Jimmy G's a bad option, but I feel like Kyle Shanahan's system, Trey Lance would work out good if he can ever actually get the chance to get going. I mean, he didn't look good in Week 1. Let's be honest, but I mean,
yeah, but like I said, I mean that was just a weird game. It was in Chicago. It was pouring rain. I mean,
the field was not draining.
Yes, it was that. I kind of discount that game, but now you look at it and you're like, man, this stinks because that's the only film we have for Trey Lance this year. Is that and the opening drive of this year. But unfortunately, moving on to some other injury news, Bills cornerback, right? I believe he's cornerback. Dane Jackson was taken off the field in an ambulance. Injury was very scary for those that watched on TV. Thankfully, avoided any major damage or major injury, but definitely scary sight last night. And then kind of transitioning into our usual topics, we go through here, we talk about the scores, little bits and pieces of the game. The Chiefs beat the Chargers. It seems like a while ago because we're doing the show on a Tuesday, but the Chiefs beat the Chargers 27-24. For the majority of the game, I would say the Chargers were the better team. Obviously, the Chiefs, do what the Chiefs do best, fight and scratch and claw. They ended up winning the game, but Justin Herbert, very gutsy performance, had a cracked rib cartilage on the last drive and still managed to give them a chance to come away with the win.
Oh,
I know how Clack feels about.
We were arguing about this in our group chat. I mean, Justin Herbert's a top 10, top 8 quarterback, but like you
try top 5.
Let me finish. Like you look at that pick 6 he threw, which was completely on him. If there's so many other quarterbacks, if they throw that interception, we're just throwing them under the bus immediately. Why does Justin Herbert not get held accountable? Yeah, he played great, but he also had some turnovers that cost him the game. I mean, yeah, he's good, a very good quarterback.
Unfortunately for Justin Herbert, that play ended up being the deciding play of the game. But the reason why we got to stop doing this woe is me Tua crap that we do. Listen, I understand Tua gets a lot of unfair judgment from the media, but a lot of that is warranted based on how very inconsistent he is. So you're comparing two players, one of which Justin Herbert, who yes makes a lot of mistakes, but is consistently good for the Chargers, whereas we haven't seen that consistency from Tua yet. So that's why they're not getting the same treatment, because Justin Herbert, thus far, has proven he's a better NFL quarterback.
Well, remember, I mean, Tua has had, I'm sorry, probably get sued for saying this because Brian Flores was not a very good coach for Miami. And then
Who is going to sue you for saying that?
you don't know the whole Brian Flores situation. He sued the Dolphins for.
Oh, I was going to say, are you like good pals with Brian Flores?
Throwing him under the bus. He sued the Dolphins. Like Brian Flores was not a very good quarterbacks coach for Tua, so it's no surprise that Tua is taking longer. Justin Herbert is he is an elite quarterback, but I don't think we're wanting to put him on the same level as Mahomes and Brady and
he
Rodgers.
is 100% at that level.
No, he's not.
What haven't you seen from him? I mean, in his first 3 NFL seasons, he started off as good as you can start.
Yes. But I just don't think he's quite there. Is he top 5? I'll take the bait and say yes. But
you just said you didn't think. You said he was top 10, top 8, and then I said he was.
I'll bend a little and say top 5. And why is Tyler?
Okay, then if he's a top 5 quarterback, then he's up there with Mahomes and all the other guys you just listed.
Mean that. That doesn't mean that. There's Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, and there's a big gap, really, before anybody else.
That's just Tyler, help me out, please. Is Tyler muted? Oh.
I don't know what is going on.
Yeah, we're having audio issues, so it's just me versus Clack. Let's just go ahead and jump into this now, then, since we're kind of talking about it. Name your top 5 in order.
I'm gonna go 5. No, I'm gonna go 5 to 1. Oh gosh, that's hard. Justin Herbert, number 5. I do think he. I mean, like I said, I'll take the bait. Justin Herbert at number 5.
It's not bait. It's just facts.
Who's your number 5?
Lamar Jackson.
Okay. This one gets tough. I'm gonna play recency bias. I'm gonna go Joe Burrow over Lamar Jackson. For some reason, I don't know why.
You're gonna take Joe Burrow over an MVP.
I'm going to take Joe Burrow over an MVP.
All right, so I went 5, 4. I'm gonna go with. This is so tough. I won't go in order. I'm just gonna say them. Your top 5 has got to be Herbert, Mahomes, Rodgers, Jackson, and who am I forgetting?
Tom Brady.
No. Who am I forgetting?
You didn't say Tom Brady.
I don't think Tom Brady's top 5 right now. We're not talking about all the time. I'm talking about right this second.
Okay.
Oh, Josh Allen.
Okay.
Right now, I would put Mahomes is okay. Mahomes is still 1. I'll put Allen at 2. I'll put Rodgers at 3. I'll put Herbert at 4, and I'll put Jackson at 5. That's my top 5.
Hello.
There we go. Tyler, top 5.
Oh, you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Woohoo! Okay, I fixed it. Oh my god, I don't know what happened.
Oh, you're quiet again.
Anyway, okay, I'll go to the next one.
We can hear you, but it's so quiet.
I can just turn up my volume. That help at all.
A little bit.
Crank it all the way up. Okay. Good.
Not entirely. Clack, top 5.
Okay.
Oh wait.
Who did I have?
Oh, there we go.
Here we go. Yeah, I'm probably like super loud now.
No, you're perfect.
Okay, perfect. I know I am. Thank you. So number 1, definitely Patrick Mahomes. I feel like number 2, got to be Aaron Rodgers based on recent years. I do expect he'll decline soon, but I've been saying that for like 10 years at this point, so I don't know. Kind of like Tom Brady. Same with number 3. I'll put Josh Allen right now, just because he's been great, and this year he's going to be the MVP this year if he keeps playing.
Yeah.
Like this, for sure.
I agree with you. Allen and Rodgers kind of an argument. I flip-flopped them, but I do agree with you so far.
Number 4, just based on the fact that he's been good for so long, I'm putting Tom Brady at number 4. I know he's maybe not as good anymore, but I think you kind of have to respect that. Even though he, has kind of declined a little bit, you expect him to. He's 45. He still just wills his team to win games and never had like a bad season. So I'm putting Brady at 4, which might be a little bit of a hot take. And then at 5, I'm trying to think. I would have said Russell Wilson, if not the last 2 years.
Oof. In 2 games.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say like last year and then this year he hasn't looked like the Russell Wilson of old. I don't know. I think Lamar Jackson just out of my top 5. I think so is Justin Herbert. I think Joe Burrow. I heard Clack say Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
That doesn't surprise me that Clack took that bait.
It's something that I wanted to talk about actually. While I stall for time to think of my number 5, is that Joe Burrow he had a good season last year, right? 4,500 yards. I have his stats pulled up, so I wanted to talk about this. 4,611 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. So he's like pretty good. But he had one good season, and everyone is crowning him as like the top guy to build your franchise around. Oh my God, he's so amazing. He's the best quarterback in the league. And I don't know. It's just, yeah, you can argue his offensive line hasn't helped him out because he's putting up record numbers of getting sacked every game. But also, that's something that's not just on the offensive line. That's on the quarterback as well, right? You got to know when to get rid of the ball. You got to know how to say.
You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Okay, I'll finish my top 5. I'm gonna restart because we got all distracted with all
restart.
Whatever. I'll go Joe Burrow at 6.
I'm gonna restart and
bullied him into
change my top 5.
I felt no because
you're funny. I can't believe you're. Oh my God.
I was trying to do this on the fly and I kind of forgot about one important person, so we gotta redo this.
You forgot about 5 important people.
I'll take the bait. Justin Herbert at 5. What is that look for?
This whole conversation was because you didn't want to put Justin Herbert in your top 5.
Whatever.
You are the biggest flip-flopper I know.
We'll just go along with it. We'll go along with it to keep you
This
smart.
show's already chalked, but it's fine.
I'll go Justin Herbert at 5. Number 4, I'll go with Tyler on that one. Take Brady at 4. All time we know he's number 1 all time, but right now take him at number 4. Number 3, I'm gonna go. This is where the top 3 get tough, because it could go either way. Number 3, I'm gonna go Aaron Rodgers, and I think the top 2 are easy, and just simply because he's been to 2 Super Bowls, I'll go Mahomes at 1 and Allen at 2. But I think Allen gets the Super Bowl this year.
After thinking about my list, I will put Lamar at 5. I said he was just outside top 5, but then I realized that I don't actually have anyone that I put over him. Just because I always respect a player that the league has to shift how they play the game to contain, right? Like, he was so efficient at being a dual threat quarterback that the league literally had to shift to spying him every time, and a bunch of mobile quarterbacks became before him too. Mobile quarterback was a knock in the draft, and now everyone's looking for the next Lamar, right? So, yeah. And then also this year, 2 games in, he was leading the league in depths of yard per target through 2 weeks. So he's throwing it the furthest downfield out of any quarterback in the league on average.
I'm really not the biggest Lamar Jackson. Whoa, am I accurate?
No, you're good.
I'm not. I like Lamar Jackson, but why am I echoing?
It's just adding emphasis to what you're saying.
This whole show is completely shocked. I'm not the biggest Lamar Jackson fan. I think he's a little bit overrated, but I had to put him at 5 just based off of the fact that I think Brady is kind of coming down to reality, and I think Lamar's very good. But I will say the first 2 games are against the Miami Dolphins defense. It's not that great, and a Jets defense who's not that great. So Lamar did what he's supposed to do. He always does what he's supposed to do against the bad teams, right? But the question is, can he do well against the teams that are going to do a good job scheming against the things that he does best. Like this week they play the Patriots, and I'm sure he'll have a better game, or I'm sure he'll have a decent game, but I don't think he's going to go off like he did last week against the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And he struggles in the playoffs.
One thing that I think is kind of funny this year is like all the bad teams, like the teams that have been bad the last couple of years, all of them except save the Texans, who tied week 1, have a win already. It's pretty crazy, right? Like the Jaguars won, the Lions won. Clack, you're super quiet now. The Jaguars won, the Lions won. There was another one that was the Jets won, the Giants won. So it's it's a weird year, I think. And like the Colts, my early Super Bowl pick are 0-1-1, so good start.
Why are you so quiet now?
Yeah. I can I can fix it for him. Oh, and also he's the one causing the echo. Because when I raise his mic volume, I can hear myself more clearly.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I can also hear myself.
The AFC South is like awful. I mean, like the AFC South champion is going to be like 7-10.
All right, we're getting like so far just off the schedule here. Can we move on to the next game?
Yeah, but I do have to say, Clack, I'm muting you when you gotta talk. Oh, yep, because you're the echo guy. So whenever you want to talk, just unmute yourself.
Fuck, you gotta get a better setup, man. Come on. All right, whatever. The Patriots beat the Steelers 17-14. In my opinion, watching the game, neither one of these teams looked all that great. I mean, the Patriots did what it took to win. Mac Jones was okay. His numbers didn't blow anyone away. It was kind of just like a standard Patriots performance with Mac Jones. The Steelers, I do kind of feel bad for Najee Harris because their offensive line is horrendous, and it just seems like they're putting a lot of pressure on him to perform, and he just hasn't been able to really get going this year. Obviously, it's the first 2 games, but kudos to the Patriots, kudos to Mac Jones. Anytime a Bama QB gets a win, it's good for all parties involved, including us. But Najee Harris, it's been a tough first couple games for him.
I mean, Alabama quarterbacks have looked great. Jalen, Tua, and Mac. I mean, 3-0. I was looking at a graphic on the Instagram page the other day. Are we overhyping like teams like the Eagles just because of 2 great offensive performances? Are we overhyping teams like that?
I think a little bit, but I think week 2, all you can do is overhype or underhype teams. Like we don't know who any of these teams are, right? Like
I say it takes like 5 weeks.
I think week 7. I'm a proponent of like a larger sample size. But like for example, week 1 we were crowned, like a lot of people wanted to crown the Vikings like, oh, they're gonna be a Super Bowl contender. And then week 2 people are like, oh,
I was one of those people.
Well, and then after week 2 people are like, oh, they're not even a good team anymore. And we're probably gonna be somewhere in between. I think we're gonna be a division winner or a wild card team, but
I still think the Vikings are a good team, but I mean the Eagles are also a good team, and sometimes when you got Captain Kirk playing on primetime spots, he doesn't typically do all that great. Believe me, I know because
like Monday Night Football, Kirk Cousins is like not very good.
He won the last 2 that he was on. We beat the Bears the last 2 years.
I mean, it's the Bears.
His record isn't that great, but I think sometimes you just have those games where your offense isn't clicking, and that was the case for the Vikings, which was fine because against the Packers, everything was clicking. So I don't think.
Yeah.
I think for that game, both teams are I think in the Super Bowl conversation. I truly do believe that for the NFC. But the Vikings just didn't have the juice last night.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it when we get to that game. But obviously, I have some thoughts. But
yeah, we can just talk about it right now. I mean, we're on the topic.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, my initial takeaways were, 1, I know it's cliche to say, like, a lot of people are going to say that it was less close than it seemed, like the Eagles are dominating, which is true. But we were also a dropped pass and a cornerback outrunning a punter away from being 21-24. So like, and then also Kirk Cousins. We we fixed the comments now. We can see the comments.
Nice.
Finally, you can get them posted on here.
This whole show has been up and down, but at least we can see the comments and the likes now.
But yeah, so I think that Kirk, I know, is going to get a lot of flack, and normally I try to defend Kirk when I can, but we had 3 trips to the red zone and he threw 3 interceptions.
What?
And not only was it that, he threw at Darius Slay covering Justin Jefferson every time and like didn't even look the way of any other receiver.
I mean, I think the problem, the Vikings, if they can get Dalvin Cook, I mean, I know Dalvin Cook seems to be injured every single week.
Yeah.
Getting Dalvin Cook fully healthy and into the system would be huge. But I mean, they still haven't been able to do that. But I mean, it's, heads and tails better than last year, what they looked. And, the Eagles, offensively, the Eagles have looked absolutely unstoppable. They look like the Chiefs offensively out of nowhere. I mean, like you said, and I do think it was a lot closer than it really looked. And I think, like you tweeted in the fourth quarter, I think Kirk Cousins just gave up.
Yeah, like the last drive of the game, he threw a pass to the corner and to Justin Jefferson. Darius Slay grabs it and almost intercepts it, and then he throws the exact same pass the exact same way on the exact same route the next drive or next play, and then it gets picked. And I'm just like, I don't understand the thought process here going through. It just seemed like he kind of throwing in the towel. But
yeah, I think Kirk's a good quarterback. Like you said, I don't want to dog him too much. I think last night, he just had a tough game, but I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I think he'll still have a good year. I think last night.
Yeah, you didn't put Drew Lock in your top 5 quarterbacks. I'm surprised.
That's true.
Top 10.
I do think that this definitely games like these always add fuel to the fire of if we are in the relative range of someone that we're in love with, we got to draft a quarterback this year in the first round, give our offensive guy his guy, right? Kind of like Cliff Kingsbury when he went to the Cardinals, they let him pick a quarterback because it was his guy. And I kind of see it being the same way.
I mean, probably
and Bryce Young.
Oh yeah, if only we had the first overall pick, that'd be so cool.
I know you wanted to get Malik Willis. Probably could have done that. I don't the Titans' offensive line was so bad last night. It was hard to tell what he's really made of.
Well, I'm just a proponent of unless you have a top 5, top 10 guy, drafting a quarterback every other year or so is always a good idea. Especially when you were like us, who didn't even have a backup quarterback. At worst, it would have been a good backup for the 3rd round pick, right?
Even if you have a top 10 or a top 5 guy, once they're getting within 2 or 3 years of retirement, if there's somebody there, you grab them.
Yeah, I mean that's why a lot of people like to make fun of the Packers because of the way Aaron Rodgers turned out. But no one expected him to have 2 MVP seasons at 38 years old or whatever. So.
I mean, look at the Bucs. They have nothing after Tom Brady retires.
Right.
You need to be prepared. So, I mean, I agree with what you said.
And then the last note on the game I'll have is that it really bothered me because people Jalen had a good game, right? But people are going to be like, oh, Jalen's making such strides as a passer, which is true. I don't want to take away from Jalen. I love Jalen. But it's very easy when we're still playing that Mike Zimmer stand 10 yards off coverage where every single play receiver runs 5 yards, turns around, gets the ball, and then runs for another 2 or 3. It's just a free 7 to 8 yards every time, and I do not understand what the thought process is on that, especially after they've already been he started the first quarter with 150 yards passing, 10 for 10. I do not understand how you, as a professional defensive coordinator in the NFL, see that and go, oh yes, my scheme is working perfectly. I have him right where I want him. I don't need to adjust.
I mean, I agree with you. The Vikings weren't playing the best defense, but I think Jalen has proved that he's, a decent NFL quarterback. I mean, he looked good the first week.
No, he was definitely good. And I'm not saying that just because they're open, you're not you still have to be good to execute. But like I said, we gave him about the easiest job you could have as a quarterback. And we refused to blitz too. We only blitzed 5% of plays or something really low. So not only did we play the soft zone coverage, we also didn't send any help for the defensive line, and we're just gonna get picked apart. And it drives me insane like I understand having a game plan, right? You always got to have a game plan, and you always got to have a system you want to run. But it drives me insane when people at this level are so stubborn that their game plan is getting picked apart, and they don't do anything to adjust the entire game.
It sounds like Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, basically.
Bill O'Brien effect. Like, I mean, if you're getting, I kind of watched that with the Titans last night. Like, I mean, Mike Vrabel, I'm not gonna, just jump on the Mike Vrabel as bad train. I mean, he was the number one seed in the AFC last year. But like, I don't understand like the stubbornness of some of these coaches, like to continuously run the same thing when something doesn't work, you have to change it up. You don't just continuously run the same play over and over and over and over and over. And I feel like that's what so many teams do. I mean, if you're Patrick Mahomes, then so be it. I mean, it's gonna, do it. But I mean, like, you've gotta have some change in your play calling if it's not working.
Yeah. The one other thing too, I was disappointed in. I thought we'd finally get to see Lewis Cine play because he was hurt week 1 and made his debut, but he only played special teams, and so. But I'd like to imagine that it was more chalking it up to it's a long season. We don't want to rush him back from injury rather than he can't even play his way onto the field as a first-round pick because that would be very unfortunate. So I like to assume it's the latter or the
Didn't
former.
you guys take – who was the corner you took?
Andrew Booth in the
Has
second
he played?
round. He played special teams week 1 and then pulled his hamstring and then was out last week, which is like the big knock on him where – that was his whole thing coming in the draft where he was like a top 15 talent with a 7th round staying healthy like ability. So, but I actually 4th round rookie Caleb Evans is above him on the depth chart right now. And whether that's because he can stay healthy or whether it's just adapted to the system or not, he actually got in. He besides Ed Ingram, our right guard, was the only rookie that saw some playing time. Like late in the game, they took out Cam Dantzler and put in Caleb Evans, which makes no sense because Cam Dantzler was like our best defender on the field last night. But oh well, get him some play time in a game that's already pretty much over. I get it.
Yeah. And then moving on to the Jets with the Joe Flacco magic, we're able to beat the Browns 31-30. Rookie Garrett Wilson caught 2 touchdown passes from Flacco. Clack thinks that they'll be better when Wilson comes back, which is kind of interesting considering Flacco has been balling. Tyler, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, here, Joe. Let me ask you a question, okay? Right. I kind of agree with Clack. I think they're going to be better with Zach Wilson. I don't think that's a ridiculous statement. And to do so, I will say the Dallas Cowboys are 0-1 with Dak Prescott, but 1-0 with Cooper Rush. So would you rather stay with Cooper Rush all year, or are you going to play Dak Prescott when he gets back?
I mean, those are 2 very different situations because Cooper Rush hasn't been in the league very long and doesn't have a Super Bowl. Joe Flacco has a Super Bowl. He's been a good NFL quarterback. And then I trust you could say the same thing about Dak Prescott minus the Super Bowl. I think Dak's been a pretty solid NFL quarterback. So I kind of get what you're saying, but at the same time, Zach Wilson hasn't shown that he's like consistent.
Well,
Flacco's not great anymore, but I mean, he's the hot hand. He's been doing well so far.
2 things. I mean, first, yeah, I think, and this is going to come off as a kind of a hot take, kind of not, but I think it's when you look at the situation. Cooper Rush fits Mike McCarthy's system better. Dak Prescott or Mike McCarthy is not a RPO kind of guy. He's used to guys like Aaron Rodgers. So Cooper Rush is more of a pocket passer, fits his system better. I think that has a lot to do with it.
I agree with that, surprisingly.
I think the Falcon, and I don't know what it was in that first game. The Cowboys just came out flat. I don't know what it was. They played a lot better. Defense got to Joe Burrow. Offense did not play that great. Let's not act like they played really well, but they did well enough to win. Secondly, when you go back and look at this Browns and Jets game, did y'all see how that game ended?
Yeah, with Nick Chubb running in a touchdown.
Nick Chubb, basically, all he had to do is fall down. The game's over because the Jets were like, I think, out of timeouts or did not have enough timeouts to stop the clock.
Okay, but at the same time, like if you're Nick Chubb, yeah, you could go down, but they were up 2 touchdowns.
Defense should not give up 14 in a minute and a half.
Yeah, so I definitely don't blame Chubb, and I think his quote was that he thought they were going to win, so why not score? I mean, it wasn't.
last year, didn't he like fall down on that situation or something, and then they ended up
Yeah,
losing?
you're
as well?
right.
So
I completely forgot about that.
yeah, it was the exact opposite happened. So it's like kind of he's been on both sides now. So what do you expect the guy to do?
But I mean, you get to give credit. I mean, the Jets are in a very tough division. Obviously, the Dolphins are playing very well. They're not going to be contenders in the AFC East. They're not going to make the playoffs, I don't think. But I think Robert Saleh has got that team going the right way. And I think you put Zach Wilson in there, I think they're going to get better and, wreak havoc. They're going to beat some teams that they shouldn't. And, they're going to have an influence in this division. And I think Zach Wilson healthy getting back is going to show that.
Well, I think long term they're better with Zach Wilson, but I just mean right now you gotta have to ride the hot hand. That's Joe Flacco.
I agree. I mean, Joe Flacco.
Which this week he'll probably come out and play like absolute crap. So make me eat my words. But as of right now, Flacco's been what they wanted from him. He's given them what they wanted.
Wow, great. I mean, the Bengals and Jets. That's gonna be a good game on Sunday.
That'll be an interesting game. I wish Zach Wilson was playing that game because you'd have Zach Wilson versus Joe Burrow, but unfortunately, it's not the case. Jaguars blanked the Colts 24-0. What is wrong with Indianapolis? They're 0. I guess they're not 0-2. They're 0-1-1.
So they've definitely disappointed, but yeah, like on Sunday, Matt Ryan was throwing to literal like insurance salesmen. I think it was like their top 3 or 4 receivers were all hurt, right? So I think it was something like 20 combined snaps throughout their career of his top 3 receivers. So like, yeah, excuses, but it's going to be really hard as a quarterback, especially on such short notice, like to develop chemistry and throw to these guys. So,
I agree.
And also, even when the Colts were good, they haven't beat the Jaguars at home in like 8 years. I don't know what it is. No matter how bad the Jaguars are, the Jaguars always just like have the Colts number.
Well, the Jags are the team that kept them from the playoffs last year.
Yep. In
I do want to talk about Matt Ryan. I mean, you brought up the point that he doesn't really have any good receivers to throw to, but it's a bad look for the Colts organization when you have Matt Ryan, who has, I think, already 4 picks through 2 games, and then you have a guy like Carson Wentz, who you publicly just ripped into pieces, and he's doing well for the Commanders. Obviously, the Commanders have a pretty solid receiving core, but it's tough for them to just absolutely dog Wentz in the offseason and then turn around, get Matt Ryan, and have him struggle mightily the first 2 games.
I don't know. I think like I said, you throw so many interceptions, but you're also throwing to nobody. Like Carson Wentz never had a situation like that last year, so I don't think it's just black and white. Maybe if the whole season ends and Matt Ryan struggles throughout the whole season and Carson Wentz has like a markedly better season than him, then we can revisit that argument. But I think 2 games in, like they just had a rough game, and also like Jonathan Taylor, for example, was an MVP candidate last year, and he's not been great this year. So I think it's easier to lie back on him. I don't know, but Carson Wentz has been better than I thought he would be. I will say
Me
that.
too. Moving on to the most exciting game of the weekend, I think we can all agree. The Dolphins stunned the Ravens 42-38, 2 through for 6 touchdowns after looking a little rough in the first couple quarters, really. What did you guys think about this game? Did you get a chance to watch it?
I saw bits and pieces of this one. Was a good game. I mean, Tua struggled early, but I mean, give credit to Mike McDaniel and what he's done with his offense, with his whole team in general. Mike McDaniel is a very good quarterbacks coach, and what a comeback. I mean, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle went off in the second half, combined for like 80 fantasy points. And then Tua had his 6 touchdowns, which by the way, ties the most in Dolphins history for a game. What a game.
Yeah, I love the people that are determined to hate on Tua going, oh, but he threw 2 interceptions. Okay, and like if I would take 3 touchdowns for every interception my quarterback throws any day of the week. I wish Kirk Cousins threw for 3 touchdowns, or I wish Kirk Cousins threw for 3 touchdowns for every interception yesterday. He would have had 9 touchdowns. Like, I don't know. I think one thing that's going to be overshadowed too is that Lamar Jackson had an incredible game as well. Like he had a MVP level game and got outplayed by Tua, which is I know all the Bama fans, the Bama faithful are kind of giddy after that, like because they finally have a this is what he's capable of game, and who knows? I hope he takes that game and runs with it. I hope he doesn't regress back.
A lot this weekend. I mean, they're playing Buffalo this weekend, one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Yeah, and we'll get to see. I think it was amazing getting to see Tua finally kind of show the haters that he can play. But I talked about this earlier with the consistency issues that Tua has because the week before when they played the Patriots, I mean, it was like painful trying to watch that game. Stat-wise, he ended up doing okay in that game. And the first couple quarters of this game were painful as well. So it's about consistency. If he can turn that corner, and we'll find out this week, like you said, playing against one of the better defenses in the league, if he can play a solid game, then I think it bodes well for the rest of the year for him. I mean, he's got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So we expected him to have a good year. I mean, the pressure's on him. We know those guys are amazing receivers, top caliber guys, but we didn't know exactly, how good Tua would be. And so far, he's looked decent.
Yeah, one thing too I do want to mention just real quick about the Patriots game is that I know it's kind of dumb to just say like, oh, it's a rivalry game, but it was a rivalry game. Weird stuff happens in rivalry games every year. You get the most unpredictable stuff happen in rivalry games because like the games are more important, right? Because you gotta having a good division record is important. So teams probably spend more time preparing for rivalry games. And then two, there's just certain like matchups that have always been like unpredictable, right? Like no matter how good the Colts have been the last couple of years, they lose to the Jaguars at home. It just happens. No matter how good or like the Packers have been and how bad the Vikings have been, we always split the series like 1-1 pretty much. So it's just rivalry games are weird, man. So I don't put too much stock into the first game of the season being against the Patriots and him like Tua not looking amazing. That being said, that also goes the same way where I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have a great game at Buffalo, especially with how good they've been, and then people are going to hop back on the Tua's overrated bandwagon. So,
I agree. I mean, but you got to remember, Buffalo is one of the best defenses in the NFL. It's going to be hard. Like nobody is going to it's impossible almost to outscore Josh Allen. Dolphins defense isn't very good. Tua's going to have to be on his A game. And you can't, I agree with what you said, but you can't just because he has a bad game doesn't mean, this last game was a fluke. But, we'll learn a lot, but I don't, you can't just have, sky-high expectations. As we're getting close on time here, so did y'all see the Raiders and Cardinals ending? What a wild ending.
Did you see there was two, pieces of two jerseys that are going to the Hall of Fame for that game? In Canton. Yeah. So was it oh God, it was the Washington cornerback. I can't think of his name that scooped and scored.
Byron Murphy.
But yeah, Byron Murphy. It was these are such weird stats to send to the Hall of Fame, but I guess whatever. It was the longest overtime scoop and score game winner in NFL history. So his jersey's going to the Hall for that. And Kyler Murray's jersey for being the first quarterback who threw for a touchdown, rushed for a touchdown, threw for a 2-point conversion, and rushed for a 2-point conversion.
Wow, what a game though! I mean, Raiders. I mean, the Raiders, you got to be absolutely frustrated because you very well could be 2-0 right now. You're sitting at 0-2 with two last-minute losses, but I mean, Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. What a game! I mean, give credit to the short guy.
Did you see that tweet that was Kyler Murray runs like a toddler who stole his mom's phone?
I mean, you got to give credit where it's due.
I always thought he ran like Jack Sparrow, kind of as he scrambles in the pocket, but I don't know.
So really quickly,
I think we should talk about the football team. The Commanders, right?
Oh yeah, we definitely.
We did have. Did you lose, Joe? Was a question that was asked. So.
Yeah, Joe always loses.
No, that's from 732, you morons.
Yeah,
I had to step away.
We were talking about, what?
I did lose though. The Commanders
we did
lost.
We lost Joe, and Joe lost.
Nah, I mean, I don't really need to get too much into that game. Obviously, we talked about it earlier. Carson Wentz has looked good. The offense was very flat. I think it was 22-0 at halftime. So they ended up battling back and making it, somewhat of a competitive game. But I mean, the Commanders' offense, I can't really complain too much about because it's been better than I thought it would be this year. Jahan Dotson, another touchdown. So as a rookie, he's already has 3 touchdowns through his first 2 games. Curtis Samuel scored again. Terry McLaurin. So they have a good receiving core. The offense as a whole is solid, but the defense has been the biggest problem. I knew it would be bad. I didn't think it'd be as bad as it is now. I mean, part of that is they're without Cam Curl, who will be back this week, safety. And then obviously Chase Young is out as well. So defense have to step it up. Jack Del Rio is getting a lot of criticism, which, I mean, I think is warranted considering that he's been here for a couple of years and hasn't really been able to do all that much. And then also, obviously, them taking Jamin Davis in the first round a couple of years back. He has not panned out at all. He looks lost and an absolute liability out there on the field. So offense, great. Defense, horrible. That's basically the summary of the Commanders through the first 2 games.
All right, so couple of more quick things. Anybody want to make a Super Bowl prediction change?
Yes. I'll hop on the bandwagon and predict the Bills. I wanted to be quirky, but my quirky team is 0-1-1 now. I don't think the Colts are it this year. I think they'll still be in the playoffs. I think they're fine. People are acting like the sky's falling. But, I mean, it's hard. It's so hard not to say the Bills right now. Like, they beat the Super Bowl champion, defending Super Bowl champion, and an AFC West or an AFC finalist by a combined score of like 77-20 in the first.
You won Bills and who?
Oh, I'll still say the Bucs. Honestly, I'm a believer in Tom Brady.
This is a tough one.
I don't want to say the Eagles yet. I still think the Eagles are a little.
I agree.
Overhyped. The
Bills
were overhyped too.
The NFC is a lot weaker than the AFC, obviously. I still think the Cardinals and Rams both have a good shot at it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to come down to, I think, I'm going to throw this out there. I think it comes down to who hosts the NFC Championship. I think it comes down to who hosts the NFC Championship. If it's in Arizona or LA, I think they win. If it's in Tampa, I think they win. Fun fact I would like to throw out there, though. The last 2 Super Bowls were in Tampa and LA. Tampa and LA won those games. This year's Super Bowl's in Arizona. So we'll see if that continues.
I bet the Cardinals would like that. I'm actually going to change my prediction. I know I said I don't want to overreact about the Vikings, but I'll go Bills, and I think the Rams will find a way to get it together. I think that'll be the Super Bowl, Bills Rams.
Any MVP prediction changes?
Josh Allen.
Yeah, Josh Allen.
It has to be. Like, if he keeps playing anywhere near this, he's going to run away with it.
Really quick, I want to get y'all's picks for a couple of games this week.
Okay.
Bucks and Packers.
Bucks. The Bucks have their number. They beat them the last 3 times.
Packers, because the Bucks are already thin at receiver and they don't have Mike Evans this week.
Oh, that's true. Did you see that the father of one of the Packers starting offensive linemen was head of the ethics committee that signed the suspension? No, I'm just kidding. Like, it's the right move, but he should have let someone else make the call, not him, because it looks like a conflict of interest. It was the right call. Like, Mike Evans deserved to be suspended, but
I mean, I think that's just like one of those things. It's a coincidence. I don't think you can really do anything about it.
One more quick one: Rams and Cardinals. So we just talked about them.
Rams. The Rams just beat the Cardinals. I think every time they play in the last 3 years.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly, the Rams kind of have. Talk about having their number. The Rams definitely have the Cardinals' number.
Can the Dolphins beat the Bills?
They can. They're not going to, but they can.
Okay.
If they score more points than the Bills, they could totally win.
Good point. I'm going to go with Cardinals over Rams, and others I agree with y'all on.
All right. Anything else?
No.
That's all.
We'll be back here tomorrow, actually.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Let's hope the audio issues are fixed.
tomorrow we'll have a mystery guest on with a name that I think everybody will enjoy. But
Yeah,
thank you all
I
for
certainly
listening to the show, all who tuned in, and we'll be back tomorrow to talk about some college football.